Now this, Mayor Zohran Mamdani of New York City is pushing another new tax to close the multi-billion-dollar budget gap in New York City that even he admits is out of control. But critics warn it could push even more businesses out of New York. Gerri Willis is with me. What exactly does the mayor want to do, Gerri?
He wants to cut a tax credit used by businesses, especially small and medium-sized businesses. NYC Mayor Zohran Mamdani's latest plan to soak the rich, reduce a tax credit favored by thousands of business owners, and use the proceeds to pay down the city's mammoth debt while not giving up his socialist agenda gimmies like city-owned grocery stores. The credit is called the PTET, or Pass-Through Entity Tax Credit, and according to the NYC Office of the Comptroller, it generated some $1.7 billion from filers with income of $1 million and higher in 2025. Now, the credit helps offset federal limits on state and local taxes by rebating a city-level tax. I know it's complicated. Mamdani says it's a tax cut for the rich, but business owners, well, they disagree.
Many states implemented a pass-through entity tax because many businesses file via the S Corp or LLCs, and this became a workaround to keep them competitive. So it's being portrayed by the far left as a millionaire benefit, but in reality, it really was created to help many small and mid-sized businesses. So in a time where the economy is fragile in New York City, we're saying just be cautious on these sort of things.
Also saying no to Mamdani's tax hike is Governor Kathy Hochul, whose support Mamdani would need to get the idea through the New York Assembly. When it comes to taxing the rich, Hochul has her own plan. She favors a pied-à-terre tax, which would apply to properties with $5 million or more that are not primary residences. Now, Mamdani currently facing a May 12th deadline to release an executive budget to plug his $5.4 billion two-year budget deficit. He wants to generate $1 billion by reducing that tax credit I described from 100% to 75%. And that's not the only plan for soaking the wealthy. Mamdani has also proposed a 2% income tax increase on New Yorkers making over $1 million a year, hiking property, corporate taxes. And while Mamdani scrambles for money, a new study from the Fiscal Policy Institute finds actual city spending exceeds projections by 10% every year as city fathers under budget and overspend. David?
That is unsustainable. And
right.
even he admits it's unsustainable. Thank you very much for that, Gerri Willis. John Catsimatidis is here with us now. John, you've bent over backwards to try to deal with this guy, to talk to him, talk some sense into them, but do you really think he's got an open mind? I mean, I continue to believe that what he said, his sort of Marxist rhetoric leading up to the election, is what he really believes.
Well, naturally, he's going to play the violin. You know, it's an old expression to his followers. But he is a smart guy. He went to Bronx Science High School. Has got a minimum 150 IQ, and I respect the smart guys. And smart guys, you know, I said to him, you're on the edge of disaster or you're on the edge of success. If you, I guess, annoy S&P or Moody's, guess what? We're going to lose. But New York City loses. New York State loses. We lose. And I don't want to lose New York City.
And by the way, it's not just the rich people, the super rich. As Gerri Willis was saying, it's the hedge
middle
funds
class.
Don't benefit from this tax credit. It's the mom and pop businesses that
and the middle class, the people that make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, they are the ones. The people that make a lot of money, well, they have an option. They get up and leave, or they get up and spend 181 days someplace else. But you can't destroy the real estate industry because in London, it's been destroyed already. It's been destroyed in London by the socialists. And if you do the same thing in New York City, that is a disaster.
Well, and talk about his $30 million plan to build one grocery store. It's going to take 3 years. It's already over budget. I mean, that affects advising him. That affects the small businesses, the small bodegas that surround this place, right?
I'm advising him to have more common sense. And look, communications. People say to me, why are you talking to him? Communications is more important than hate. I don't want to hate. I want communications. He's a smart kid. He's a smart person. He's a kid. He's 34 years old. Yeah. And he's still learning. and communications, and hopefully he'll understand that it's better to have New York City win. If New York City wins, he wins.
I want to slip one more in. Citadel CEO and billionaire Ken Griffin is going to be meeting with New York Governor Kathy Hochul later this week. They're going to discuss the city's future direction under Mamdani. How do you think that's going to go?
Well, the governor, it's up to the governor oversees the mayor. So you have checks and balances. You have the governor overseeing the mayor. You have Julie Menem, the city council president, overseeing the mayor. And you have the Washington, President Trump, through Jay Clayton, the U.S. attorney that coordinates the other federal people in the city, and they oversee the mayor. So it's up to the mayor, who is a smart guy, like I said, to determine, is he going to fall off the edge of disaster, or is he going to fall off the edge of success?
It's up to you, Mayor Mamdani.
It's up to you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
John.
you so
Good
much.
to see you.